Hello, 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 ladies, gentlemen, others. How is everybody doing today? It is Thanksgiving currently, so I hope you're having a great holiday, and I hope you've got your family around you. I hope you're feeling that positive energy, that warmth that a family brings, and I hope you're just enjoying life currently, because I know I am. I'm posting this video a little bit late today because, like I said, it was Thanksgiving, and I had some Thanksgiving stuff to do. I think I put on about 20 extra pounds, so hey, it be how it do, but I hope it was for you as well. So guys, today I have a Magplar Templar PvP build for you guys. This is less so a unique and interesting build like I usually try to post, and more or less just the strongest, most meta setup I could try to figure out. And I want to share it with you guys today because I feel like that's my job. Some of you guys seem to think that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to this class, so here we go. We're going to talk about it today. This build is, again, like I said, it's not super unique, it's not super interesting, it's just strong in every aspect. It's got damage, it's tanky, it has speed. If you want the speed there, it's an option that I'll talk about. It's got heals, it's got big boy heals, ridiculous healing, and I don't even use healing CP, so it's a crazy build. It's super strong, and I'm also going to show you guys a lot of ways to customize it and make it more of your own build. There's a lot of options in here, a lot of things I'm going to share with you guys, so that way you can take this information and you can make it your own and you can enjoy it. For anyone trying to get into the class, or if anyone's just lost with this class right now and doesn't know what to do, I have a ridiculous amount of information here, some tips and tricks at the end as well. Everything you might need is in this video. So yeah, if you want to see me play this class live over on Twitch, if you ever want to ask me any questions or see what kind of builds I'm working on early before they ever hit YouTube, go follow me on Twitch, because that's the best way to do so. Join my Discord too, because I can answer any questions you guys have in there. And aside from that, let's go ahead and get into this build video right now. Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and dive on in here. Now I cannot buff up fully, because one of my sets does rely on me taking some damage and whatnot. But I will buff up a little bit here and just show you how the stats are looking pretty frequently. Well, that wasn't the best buff I've ever had in my life. Here we go. So, without one of my sets on and without a few changes that I'd like to make to the build, we're hitting about 6,500 spell damage. Really, really solid. We got 10,000 pen. Again, nice, solid baseline number there. About 30% crit. If I could get into some light armor, I would have over 30%, about 31, 32, which would be really nice. I just cannot get the drops that I want for my monster pieces, and I'd be at about 12k pen instead of 10k, which would be really, really nice. Lose a little bit of spell damage, but hey, we'll talk about that later. So all in all, we've got some really, really solid offensive stats here, and they do go up when in combat and with some other factors considered. Looking at our main stats, our max them health. We got 29.5k max mag, 29k max health, 19k max stam. I have 7 points into health, only because I forgot that I have 7 points into health. So take those out, put them into mag, or take some out of mag, put them into health if you want 30k or more. That's definitely up to you. That is an option that you can muddle over yourself. That is really entirely your choice. I just want to have more mag. I don't really care about the health. I think 28k is totally reasonable. Now when it comes to my recovery, I've got 1565 on the front and 1741 on the back, where I think it is a little more helpful. When it comes to armor, I've got 2500 spell and 2300 physical. That will also go up when I proc my set to about 30k almost spell and 27k physical, which is plenty, I promise. And if I had one other item, that would go even higher. Again, I'll talk about that later. 1447 crit resist. Personally, I don't find this to be too helpful of a stat, but it's plenty of crit resist. You can make it go up if you want to by using more pen. That, again, is a personal choice that you can make. I just don't really care to. And I think that is it for the important stats here. Yep. Coming down, just to take a look at this stuff here, I am using the Atronach Mundus for recovery because I like it. It's nice. It's the only recovery that I use on this build, and it's plenty for me. But, you know, we're not even going to get there. We're not even going to go into that right now, because I know the Wretched Vitality guys are going to come over here and start screaming at me. I am a high elf. I like high elf because it gives us damage, gives you mitigation when you are channeling jabs, or let's call them sweeps, sorry, when you're channeling sweeps, and radiant, because I use the radiant impression on this build, I like it. And it also gives you that extra off-stat stam recov passive, which is really helpful, especially considering the way that I play this build. So very, very solid class race to use for this class. When it comes to second best, I'd say that Breton is probably second best for this setup. And followed by that will be probably Khajiit, and then Dark Elf and Argonian are kind of down there at the bottom, but they're still not horrible. Everything else, just kind of forget that exists. Orc would be an interesting choice, I suppose, because of the extra speed and the fact that he gives spell damage now, but I don't know if I'd actually use it. But yeah, Breton, Dark Elf, High Elf, they all work for this build. Any mag race will work, but that's kind of the list, the order of, you know, how I think, how good they are, in my opinion. I like High Elf. If you are one of those other races and you don't want to race change, you don't have to, it's not necessary. That's just my personal opinion. So do you, Chief. For food, I'm using Sugar Skulls, and I am a Vampire. We'll talk about Sugar Skulls, we'll talk about Vampire. I'm currently Vampire Stage 2 because I staged down while trying to film this video. I had to reshoot it twice, and I lost a bunch of time, but that's not too relevant. You can drop Vampire entirely on this build, and you'll still do just about as good with better sustain. That's up to you. I just have it on still. I'm probably going to drop it personally because I don't think I need it. Now, let's go ahead and look at the gear. We've gone over the stats. Let's see how we're getting those stats. They do go a lot higher, like I told you, and we'll go over how. On the front bar, I have a sharpened Deadly Maul. Why am I using Deadly on the front bar here? Well, that is because it gives me weapon damage, spell damage, weapon damage, spell damage, and then critical chance. All three are nice stats to have on Templar, because you want to crit on the Templar. You do. Critting is really nice. It makes me a little bit moist, because things go boom when you crit them. And then it increases the damage of your damage over time and channeled abilities by 15%. So that means our sweeps, mainly, our puncturing sweep. That's our most important damage ability, so I'm trying to amplify that as much as humanly possible. Now, some people don't like this, because it's only the sweeps, it's only the dot from our crescent, and it's only the radiant if you are using it. So that's fine, I understand that. There's some other front bar options if you want to get more overall spell damage for your healing and for your damage. You could do something like Scathing Mage or Briarheart. Both work. They both work very well. Briarheart, now that the stuff has been changed, is actually quite nice on Magplar. I will tell you that right now. Those should be on screen here. If I forgot to put them, I'm sorry. I have a bad habit of doing that, but they're there, I hope. And then you could just front bar Clever Alchemist as well for big boy spell damage. You could also use Stuns. I don't like Stuns. It's a little too single target bursty for me. It's not as effective when it comes to killing multiple people at the same time, in my opinion at least. I mean, I guess it does give you, you know, overall penetration, but it does require that you hit somebody first. I don't like having to proc things like that. That's why I'm not using any of those other sets to begin with. I don't like having to proc anything. I don't like having to actively think about something to proc damage, because I feel like that slows me down when I'm trying to get my combos off, and I just don't like it. But if you like it, it is an option. It'll activate when we stun people, and it'll make people die, because that's a lot of pen. That's still the same amount of spell damage, weapon damage. It's a very good set. I just don't like it too much. Now I have poison on here. If you don't have poison, and you don't want to use poison, don't use this glyph. I just haven't changed the glyph. The glyph that I would recommend you use would be a lightning glyph, because that will proc concussed on people, make them take 5% more damage. That is up to you. I've just been using poison because I find poison generally more useful. Yes, they could be taking 5% more damage from my combo, or they could be taking an extra 1000 damage every second for 6 seconds. So that's up to you. Double dot poison or a shock glyph. Either one is good. You could even do the restore stamina glyph, because it is a physical damage proc. So that could proc the new Sundered passive debuff on people, which is another 3000 penetration for you. So mix it up with your glyphs. You could even do Disease for Defile if you want. But I say Shock and then Physical are probably the most effective ones for damage, but I'm using poisons, because I like poisons. Poisons go burn. These escapist poisons are also quite nice. We'll talk about that later. On my back bar, I have a Restoration Staff of Olorime, defending with a weapon damage enchant. Now, before I even Okay, first we'll see what the set does. What the set does is it gives us 124 magic recovery, 124 magic recovery, minor Aegis because that's super helpful in PvP, and then casting an ability that leaves an effect on the ground gives you 430 spell and weapon damage to you and your group. Anyone that touches it for 20 seconds. This can occur once every 10 seconds. So basically, this is going to be 100% uptime on a Templar, no matter what. Unless you don't know what you're doing on Templar, then you might be a little fucked. But if you know what you're doing on Templar, this is 100% uptime. This is 430 spell and weapon damage on your back bar. This is close to the same amount of damage that Clever Alchemist gives with 0 of the drawbacks, and it's a very, very, very strong set. It also gives us some sustain on the back bar. If you have the Perfected, you'll get a line of mag as well, so that's also nice for some back bar healing and whatnot. But yeah, this set's great. If you don't want to farm it, there are some other choices you could use. Clever Alchemist, always a good choice, because it gives you health, makes you tankier, and it gives you a big fat proc for damage. And it's not bugged anymore, this patch, so that's good. And then another crafted choice that people are probably going to castrate me for saying after a video that I made recently. But another thing you could try if you want to, you know, just if you're feeling like it, you could try Wretched Vitality on the back bar in this build. It wouldn't be totally terrible. It'd give you a really, really solid sustain for both your stam and your magicka. And you could dodge roll more, you could, you know, do everything else more. You could replace your Atronach Mundus with the Apprentice or whatever, get the spell damage, and then you'll still have less damage than this current setup, but it'll be kind of close with better sustain. So that's kind of up to you. If you want more damage, pick this. If you want more sustain, pick that. Really entirely up to you. Personally, I don't think that the sustain is that important because I can sustain just fine like this, but if you feel like you need that extra helping hand, don't be ashamed. Don't be bothered by putting on Wretched Vitality. It works. And people yelled at me for saying that I don't like it, but hey, it is what it is. It's not totally horrible, and it fits into this playstyle a little bit, so give it a go if you want. Now let's talk real quick about why I'm using 2H Resto. I have seen some people asking me constantly why 2H instead of dual wield. Personally, I just like the 2H passives more. I find it to be a little bit burstier. I think dual wield is better for pressure, and I think dual wield will probably do you better in groups with, say, one Nirnhoned, one charged, with a lightning and again that physical glyph. Some people have told me that. I've seen Ness do it. Someone told me in my stream to do that. I just don't find it as good personally. I like to have my follow-up passive with my ultimate and have, you know, if I have a glyph on, then it'll hit hard because it's a bigger glyph and it might proc the status effect, it might not, but hey, whatever. And since it's a physical weapon, it can still proc Sundered, so it's not like I'm not getting that buff ever. So really, that's up to you. Personally, I just like 2H better. I think it plays better. I think it feels better to use. Dual wield definitely works. If you already have dual wield, I would use 2 maces, 1 charge, 1 Nirnhoned with the Sundered proc. You'll get just about as much physical and spell penetration, and that'll happen pretty much every time you do a medium weave, plus the 5% damage from concussed. Yes, I've heard people talk about this. I know how it works. You guys now know how it works. I just don't like it. I like 200 better because I like to do a big ol' heavy attack into my Crescent Sweep and just remove someone's jawline. And you could also, when it comes to your back bar here, this setup will work with any kind of weapon setup, okay? This works with Sword and Board back bar, this works with Ice Staff back bar, all kinds of things. You pick what you want to use. I just like Resto Staff because I like the Resto ult and I like Rapid Regen. If you don't want to use those two things, definitely consider throwing on an Ice Staff or a Sword and Board because they will both benefit you greatly. But the things that Resto gives me personally, I don't think I could live without. I also really like Restoration Staff heavy attacks and how much they help my sustain and getting major mending on the setup with the minor mending and all of the crazy spell damage we're going to have on this build for healing. It just makes it very hard to put down. So yeah, you can use this on any weapon setup. I'm just using this one. Now down into our monster set, we're using Magma Incarnate. I'm sure you guys know what this does, but if you don't, it gives you max stam, max mag, recovery, I mean, not max, but recovery, which is good. And then when you heal yourself or an ally, blah blah blah, 215 spell weapon damage, 3000 armor for 10 seconds. So basically, this is 66% uptime on 3000 armor and 215 spell damage. Between Olarime and this, we're getting over 600 something spell and weapon damage almost constantly. That will also be given to your group members if you are playing with friends, which is awesome. They'll love you for it, and I don't think I'd trade this out for anything, but if you do want to trade it out for anything, One thing that I've tried, and it's not too bad, is Slime Craw. It gives you a little bit more crit, which is helpful on the Plar, as well as Minor Berserk, which gives you 5% extra damage to everything. So another stacking percentage multiplier on our jabs for more damage, and it's pretty helpful. It's nice. I don't hate it. If you are using Camo Hunter, which you can do on this build, you don't need it though. So another choice for just raw damage, shitting out as much damage as possible, would be Balorg. I don't have one in my inventory, so I'll just stick it on the screen. I'm sure you guys know what it does. Weapon damage, spell damage. When you ult, you get pen, you get spell damage. So very strong set there. When it comes to sustain and defense, Engine Guardian is never a wrong choice. This gives you a lot of sustain to both your magicka and stamina and your health, and it gives you a bit of a body block companion. So in this really squishy, well, we're not actually squishy, we're pretty girthy on this setup, but, you know, compared to someone like Pariah or something, you're gonna feel squishy. Sorry, I'm like dying over here, by the way. I have the hiccups or something coming up and trying to slap my cheeks around. But yeah, Engine Guardian, always a good choice on the Magplar, in my opinion. Some people will call you stupid for using it. They'll call you a cheese lord, get carried, whatever. Fuck those guys, ignore them. Do what you want to do. But I like Magma. Gives me everything I need. Damage, defense, a little bit of sustain. So, good set. Use any of those. Then on my chest, I have one heavy trainee chest, reinforced for that little bit of extra health. Now, also down here on the jewelry, too deadly. I'll talk about the mythic in a minute. I just want to talk about the way I have the armor set up to get my bonuses the way that I want them. I have one heavy chest, and I have medium on the legs, which is deadly, because you need to have one piece of deadly on your body. You are going to want to either have the hand or the feet or the legs of deadly, because feet or legs of deadly, because they give the same armor value. You do not want to have the hands or waist of deadly, just because that'll be gimping yourself on a little bit of extra armor, which no one ever wants to do. As you can see here, the difference between a light and a medium is about 600 almost armor, which is close to 1% damage. So you want to have either the feet or the legs in medium, the chest in heavy, and then you fill in with as much light as you want here. You're going to need 3 light on for the Olorime. I would rather have 5 light, 1 medium, 1 heavy, just for all of the bonuses to magic stuff that light armor gets, but I don't have my magma in light. So I'm doing 2 medium, 2 heavy, and 3 light. Very good balance between giving me extra crit rate with light, extra crit damage of medium, and some extra tankiness with heavy. It works. I don't dislike it, but I would rather go 5 light, and I recommend you guys try out 5 light, because you'll do more damage than you're doing right now. You'll have more crit, you'll have more sustain, and 5 light just sounds kind of thick to me. But that's totally up to you. Mix and match however you want. You could go with 3 heavy here on the monster pieces in the chest, 1 light, 1 medium, 3 light. Again, up to you. When it comes to traits for armor, I'm using reinforced heavy chest. This is the best numbers wise. I always do this. And then I would like to have 3 M-Pen, 1, 2, 3, and then 3 well fitted, 1, 2, 3. I don't have that right now. My traits are a little fucked. I don't want to go bother and fix them, but hey, if you can, you do that. 3 well-fitted, 3 M-Pen, really good combo, gives you some mitigation on the cost of your dodge rolls, which are important on this setup if you are not blocking. If you are blocking with a ice staff or a sword and board, go 3 sturdy. That is, it's up to you. Glyphs, I have triglyphs on the big pieces and mag glyphs on the small pieces. Now jewelry, let's get into here because this is where mythic is. All my jewelry right now is infused with spell damage. Big damage right there. This is, honestly, your jewelry is where a majority of your damage comes from on just about any build these days, because this is a lot. 278, we're looking at 280 times 3, it's about 300 per, right? So it's like almost 1,000 spell damage across the board if you're all infused. That's a lot of damage, so keep that in mind. I have the deadly here because I don't want to have to put a bunch of medium on my body. And then, when it comes to mythic, there's 3 choices. I'm using Wild Hunt because it's what I have. It gives you some speed. Speed is nice. Speed's very helpful. Helps you not die because you can get away from things. However, if you don't think you need that speed, if you're playing in a group where you can push out more damage, you have 2 options. First of all, there's Malakath's Band of Brutality, which is always good. This makes crit a non-factor in your build. You don't have to worry about proccing the bonus in any way. You don't have to worry about hoping that a crit lands, and you can just push out more pressure-based damage, which is a really, really good choice. And then lastly, the one that I would like to use the most is the Marken Ring of Majesty. I do not have it because I don't have the DLC. So I mean, hey, if anybody wants to sugar daddy me that DLC, here's my gamer tag on the screen. Just, send it my way. But anyway, that one is probably going to be the best choice. It gives you, it's going to give you more weapon and spell damage and armor based on how many pieces of sets you have on or whatever. Basically on this build, it would give us 200 weapon spell damage and 2600 armor. So that'd give us over 30k spell resist and close to that same amount on physical. So in general, that is a very, very strong ring. You could even run that with a couple of Swift to get the movement speed that Wild Hunt provides, and since you get the extra spell damage from the ring, you wouldn't actually lose anything that you already had because you traded out, you trade the 200 from 2 infused jewelry here for 2 Swift instead, with the 200 from the ring. So yeah, those 3 mythics, all good. You could also use Death Dealers. I don't have Death Dealers. I don't know how good it'll be on this setup. Couldn't be bad though, so that's also an option. Now we've gone over the gear, let's talk about skills on the back bar here. Let's start on the left. Honor the Dead, you know what this does. Burst heal, super important. Like, there shouldn't be really too much I have to say about this. You kind of want to use this only in emergencies because it does cost quite a bit. Race Against Time, if you are not using a slower setup, I definitely recommend Race Against Time. Also, use this if you are not using the Malakath ring because you are going to benefit from the spell critical damage. Critical damage. I cannot talk today, guys. This gives you 10% critical damage. Templar gives you 10% critical damage. That's an extra 20%. So your crits will hurt people. This also gives you Major Expedition and also gives you a snare removal. Very helpful. Very nice skill to have. Use Mist Form if you have no legs in your build. It's probably better for you and you can tank through some shit with it. Channeled Focus, this is our armor buff, this is a sustain buff, and this is a small heal. This also procs our Olorime, super helpful. Extended Ritual, I know that Plague Break is scary, guys, but if you're playing by yourself, it doesn't really hurt you all that bad if you cleanse it off. If you're playing with a group, just be mindful not to kill everybody that you love. This gives us a nice heal over time. This gives us a large area to be affected by our passives, including the Minor Mending passive, which is very important in my opinion. And then of course lastly, the most important thing, it gets rid of not 5 negative effects. I'm trying to speak clearly, I promise, which is super helpful. You get a bunch of dots on you, just do this once, twice, now the dots are no longer on you and you're good to go. And it gives you a big safe space, so you throw down the rune, throw down the ritual, stand inside them both, you're getting a lot of heal over time, you're getting tanky, and you're just staying alive. Very helpful. Then I do have Rapid Regeneration. I like Rapid Regen because it's a very, very powerful, super strong heal over time. This will crit you for like almost 4k, and it'll heal you non-crit for 2.7, 2.8, almost 3k constantly, which is very good every second, over 5 seconds. Or it'll hit somebody else that you don't know who is dying a little harder than you are, and you won't heal yourself, you'll waste your magicka, and then you'll die, because that's fun. It's a hit and miss skill. When it hits you, it's awesome. When it hits someone else, you want to end your life. But hey, that's the luck of the draw. Then on my back bar, I have Life Giver. This is really, really, really just one of the best defensive ultimates in the game. Super, super strong burst heal. Well, not burst heal, but I mean, it's damn near burst heal. Look, 9, 8, 6, 1 every second. So it's like 5 back-to-back on the deads on you. And it will of course go up when you're all buffed up. It's pretty strong, this whole thing. This thing hits like 15, 16, 17k when you're fully buffed. Very, very powerful. And it also casts all of those other abilities on you if you have them unlocked, so make sure to unlock all of the abilities in your Resto Staff skill line, which I have not done. But you want to do that, because when you cast your healing ultimate, you are going to get all of these to activate on you all at the same time. So that's super awesome. Very, very helpful. Mega amazing. Now onto the front bar. Let's start over here on the left, go over this stuff. Purifying Light, you know what this does. This is a damage store thing. Goes into a big burst. Ranged, you can't be dodged, none of that stuff. Can't be blocked. Crazy, crazy skill right here. You put this up on somebody, topple into them, jab them, they die. It's awesome. I love to have it back, thank God for the buff. Going in the toppling charge, this is our main stun, a gap closer, sets them off balance, which helps us with sustain as well, because you get extra resource return when you heavy attack an off balance enemy. So if you are missing one of either of your resource in a large amount. Trying to squeeze in a quick topple with a heavy attack can really save your buns. Super nice. Then on the front bar I have another heal with Living Dark. This one scales very powerfully with spell damage. When we are fully buffed up in PvP, this thing will be at about 4k health every tick, which is crazy. It's probably closer to 5k if you've got all the damage. Again, crazy, because this thing is going to be proccing constantly when you're outnumbered. Every half second, there's a fly in my face. Fuck off. And it's awesome. I put it on my front bar here because this is where I get my higher spell damage, just to buff it up as much as possible. It also slows people. All in all, this skill is amazing, and I don't really like playing without it. I've played without it before, and I miss it every time. So this is an awesome heal. I love it. I'm never taking it off. And then I have Radiant Depression. This is an option. This is a flex spot. You can put whatever you want here, really. If you want to not have to use spell power pots like I am, you could throw Degeneration in right here. If you don't want to worry about crit, you can put Inner Light here. If you want to have just as much raw damage on all of your abilities as possible, you can go down here and grab Expert Hunter for that 5% increase, Minor Berserk, and put it here. That is an option. Every time I play without Radiant Depression, I feel like I'm gimping myself because people will roll away, they'll get away. There'll be people that drop down to low health and the jabs just aren't enough to kill them, and I know that the Radiant would, so I just like to have it on. It's an amazing skill. I love it. And we channel it, so we get 15% extra damage on it from our set. We take 5% less damage because we're a high elf. All in all, makes it really strong. And then of course we have Puncturing Sweeps. There's not much to say about this. This is our burst. This is our spammable. This is our everything. This is our bread and butter. We love this. Let me just buff up a little bit here so you guys can see what it's doing. Oh, go. Almost 5k, and I'm not even fully buffed right now. So this thing hurts people. This hurts them really bad. So yeah, you know what this skill does. You can hit Nightblades with it that are in cloak. You can hit multiple people with it. It'll heal you when you use it. It's an amazing skill. On to the ultimate. I'm using Crescent Sweep. Super low cost ultimate. You can damn near spam this. The dot does get a buff from our set, so it's going to hit even harder. It hurts people in front of you harder than it hurts people behind you, but it is a nice 360 AoE, so if someone's trying to roll away behind you and you catch them with this thing, it'll still hurt, because I mean, look at it, it still says 11.3k, so that's still going to crack someone's skull open even without the 60% extra damage. With that, we're looking at almost 20k on this thing. Really strong. However, I have heard some people say they like to use Dawnbreaker of Smiting on their Magplar. A little funky, a little weird, but I mean, hey, buffed up, it's not all that bad. Looking at about 16.5k, and the dot as well. It does cost quite a lot, and it does deal a little bit of extra damage if you have the passives in. It stuns, and it has a powerful dot that follows it up, and it will buff your weapon and spell damage on your bar. So, not a bad skill at all. Very strong. I do see the benefits to using it. I just don't use it because I like Crescent Sweep better, mostly for that cheap cost. Look at that, 18,000 damage. It is quite nice. It does hurt quite a lot. It's a good skill, so use that if you want to. Use Crescent Sweep if you want to. That's an option, up to you. Do as you please. And that is it for the skills and the gear. Let's talk real quick about champion points. In the blue tree, I have something. Hold on. I have Duelist Rebuff, and I have Ironclad for mitigation. So that is single target damage, and that is direct damage attacks. So that means this is going to reduce everything Nightblades do to you by 20%, everything Sorks do to you by 20%. All that annoying shit that really hurts you, this is going to mitigate the shit out of it. It's going to feel real good, okay? I've actually dropped healing CP off of this character entirely because I have so much of it. I have crazy healing on this build. You don't need a healing CP. You don't need it at all. Trust me, you don't need it. It's useless. Go with the mitigation. You'll find that you have much more success because the healing is already so high. So yeah, we're using those two to stack as much mitigation versus the ones that actually hurt us as possible. We do have the direct damage in as well. So that means jabs, that means Dawnbreakers, that means all the other AoE stuff will also lose 10% of its damage, while the ones that are really dangerous lose 20%. We like that. Of course, get all your passives. We already know that. That's common knowledge. And then up here, We have Biting Aura, and we have Master at Arms for damage. This increases the damage of your direct damage attacks and the damage of your AoEs. So that's your jabs and your Crescent Sweep both getting 20% extra damage. That is your Purifying Light getting 10% extra damage. That's your Beam getting no extra damage, and it still hits hard, so that's nice. And yeah, this is the most important here. These two, with those two, you will notice no problems. Into the red, this is where it gets a little weird. I've done some weird things with it. I'm using Celerity for even more speed, because I like to be fast. I'm using Relentlessness, because Major Protection every time you get stunned, just to mitigate the damage that you are inevitably going to take after you get stunned. It's nice, I like that. Then I have on Sustained by Suffering, which is for a little bit of extra sustain, just because. And I have Boundless Vitality for health. I do take Sustained by Suffering out and put on Pain's Refuge. They're both good. Either one, if you want a little more sustain, go with Sustained by Suffering. If you want more tankiness, go with Pain's Refuge. Pain's Refuge is good even on a Templar, because if you are outnumbered as hell, you're going to have a lot of negative effects on you no matter how many times you cleanse. But I have noticed that sometimes when I'm fighting smaller numbers or even in 1v1s, I will rarely ever have an effect on me. I'll cleanse off 2 or 3 of them pretty quick, and I won't have them. They just won't be there. But sometimes they are. Sometimes they're there. So that's why I use this. It's good. It's good. It works good. Use it if you want to. Don't use it if you don't want to. Up to you. Sustain by Suffering or Pain's Refuge. Pick and choose. More mitigation or more sustain. That is your choice. And of course, get all the passives. The most important ones being the health here, and all these sustain-based ones. Anything that says roll, dodge, or sprint too is also quite nice. And then over into the green tree, just because, I guess. We have Steed's Blessing, 20% movement speed, mount speed, mount stamina, and fucking Treasure Hunter, I guess. I don't know why I have that on, but hey, it's on. Green tree is kind of stupid. But yeah, there we go. Now, let's talk real quick about my consumables that I use. Poisons, I like to use these poisons sometimes. These are actually pretty helpful, and they keep us moving quick, give us a little bit of a heal over time, and restore some stamina to us, which is really nice. I like them. Or you could just use some straight double damage poisons to give you the most pressure possible. I think I like this a little bit better on this spec, but either one works quite well. You could also use the double health drain poisons, which are also quite nice. They do double dot like these, they just don't last as long, and they give you a little bit of a heal over time to make you tankier. That's it for poisons. Into food, I'm using Bewitched Sugar Skulls, and there's no other real alternative. You don't need to use anything else. If you want to, you could drop it, and if you just want to push out even more sustain, use something like Clockwork Citrus Fillet. I'm not going to do that. I don't need to. The sustain is already good enough, but hey, if you're feeling like you're struggling, you could do that, not really lose out on very much damage at all, and just have more sustain. You'll have less stam, but you can sustain your stam through heavy attacks and high health, so it's not too big of a deal. And then into the potions, this is where it gets a little bit weird. This is why I wanted to make this section, of course. I am using spell power potions because they give me all the buffs that I don't want to have to build onto my skills to give me a little more flexibility. These give me return magic, and they give me spell damage and spell crit, which are helpful buffs if we want to kill things. I like having them on, so I use these. Some people may find a problem with sustain and then be like, why can't I use tripods? You can use tripods, you'll just lose damage. You can fix that though. If you don't want to have to sustain or rely on spell pots, then you can gimp yourself. You can take off your Living Dark and put on Degen. Take off your Execute and put on Inner Light. And there you go. You've got all the buffs you need without having to use a potion, and you can now use tripods. I just don't like to do that. I like to have the extra utility of having an Execute and having another heal over time. That's up to you. Whichever you prefer, whichever sounds better to you, make that call. So I also keep tripods on me anyways, just in case I'm getting absolutely zerged down and I feel like I'm just going to need that extra sustain. Sometimes it is a lifesaver. It's not always, but sometimes it is. So keep some on you just in case. I have more of them here. And then I also keep some of these on me. They give me immune to knockback. They give me stealth detection, which is good. and they give me back Magicka, also really good. So this is my pot when there's a Nightblade being an annoying asshole that I needed to kill. And I always keep a bunch of these on me at all times. You will want to as well, because Nightblades are annoying. And then I also have these, which are a little funky, little weird pot that I sometimes use. They give me minor or major sorcery for my crit, major prophecy for spell crit. Oh wait, this isn't. Okay, this isn't the potion I thought it was. Never mind. This is just another regular old spell power pot. I was trying to have some of the potions that give you, there's ones that give you, I think, detection and spell damage and Magicka back. I wanted to have some of those on me. I don't, though. But here is the recipe. Just have it so you know what it is. It gives you detection, Magicka, spell damage, in case you want that. I just like the knockback resistant thingy instead. And that is it for our consumables or slottable stuff. And now, just real quick, we're going to talk about some tips, some tricks, some rotation thingies that you might want to keep in mind when it comes to fighting people after I fix my skill bars here, because it is absolutely destroyed. So, when you're coming into a fight, you always want to buff up first. Well, I guess you have to be in combat to buff up first, but you'll be in combat anyway, because you never get out of combat in PvP, right? Always buff up, never attack outside of your circles. 9 times out of 10, you don't want to attack outside of your circles. Put this up, and now you're ready to go. Purifying Light. And this is where it gets a little tricky. Some Templars will stun immediately after the Purifying Light and do damage. Some Templars will do damage and then stun with the Purifying Light going off, so that way they can't react to that damage as well. That is going to be something you're going to need to learn how to do. You're going to need to learn how to pick and choose what way to engage each target. 9 times out of 10, squishy Nightblades, you're just going to want to get in there, stun them, and then jab them, they'll die. But if it's a tankier target that seems to know what they're doing, you're going to want to be more careful with it. You're going to want to pressure them while they have a Purifying Light up, maybe Crescent Sweep right as it goes off, and then stun so they can't react to that burst as fast. Sometimes you'll want to go with 2 of them, you know, do the damage here, do the damage, they're healing through damage. So the second that one goes down, you put another one up on them, keep that pressure up, and just keep going. Just keep pressuring them, and then when it seems like they're starting to run out of sustain, out of juice, that's when you stun them. So you have to be careful, you have to know the best time to stun. Always make sure you understand how the opponent is reacting to your damage before you commit to the kill. Otherwise, you'll see a lot of people get away from you. Just remember that you pretty much never want to attack someone unless they already have your Purifying Light up on them, because that is a big component to your damage. So, number 1, first and foremost, is Purifying Light before anything. Then, you can do whatever you want. Nightblade, just crack them with the Crescent. Topple them, stun them, all that. It all works. Nightblades, they'll die. But it's those tankier targets that you want to keep in mind when it comes to the more tricky fights. And that's the main thing I wanted to touch with you guys, because some people, I see them play Templar and they'll just do the same thing over and over. You know, they'll Purifying, topple, jab, and nothing will die, because, you know, the guy's gonna get free, full dodge out, heal themselves, and they take 0 pressure. You need to time your stuns with your Purifying Light when you're fighting anyone that has a brain, okay? You want to get your damage in that window and then stun. Now, another trick that you need to learn how to do as well, especially for those targets that, again, know what they're doing, anyone that knows how to fight people, you want to be very aware of the timing on your Purifying Light, okay? Because that is the killer. See, when that gets down to 2 seconds or so, that's when you want a Crescent Sweep, because that Crescent Sweep and that Purifying Light are going to go off at about the same time, and that is going to do a ridiculously large amount of damage to people that they are not going to be ready for when they are in conjunction with each other. So just remember that as well to help maximize your burst. And remember all the different ways that you can utilize it. On paper, it seems very simple. You have a stun, you have a spammable, and you have a burst ability. You know, whatever, it sounds really simple. It's not as simple as it seems. There are a lot of nuances to getting kills and securing kills on the Templar, and you need to remember that at all times. Also, you have a beam. Use the beam how you see fit. If someone's at 50% health and they've got a Purifying Light on them you know is already stacked, sometimes I'll just start beaming people because the second that purifying light goes off, it's going to drop them down to 30% health, and that beam is going to rip their fucking teeth out. So, yeah. Now, defensively, the best way to be defensive on this class is to get your circles down and get your heals up. If you have all of these heals going and you are standing in all of these circles, you probably won't die unless you are extremely outnumbered. You can tank through just about anything just by doing this. So we've got 4 heals over time going on as right now. We've got the ritual, we've got the rune, we've got the rapid regen, and we have this one which will heal us based on people hitting us, so we don't actually get to see the numbers. But when you have all this incoming healing and you have all the extra mitigation that I have through CP and all that, you are basically unkillable 9 times out of 10. If you've got 17 people on you, it's, you know, it gets a little more complicated, but hey, it is what it is. Now, obviously you're gonna have to kite sometimes. You can do that, get behind something quickly using your rapid regen, but I'd say always make sure that you have your rapid regen up before you move, because rapid regen is probably your best single target heal, aside from Honor the Dead. But Honor the Dead costs a lot of magicka, so we don't want to spam that. A lot of the times, rapid regen is enough to get you out of danger. Not a lot of people realize that, and they want to do this instead, even when they have rapid regen on their bar. Don't get in the habit of wasting all your mag using Honor the Dead. Use rapid regen. It's an extremely strong heal. It's really good. You want to remember to do it. Use rapid regen. God damn it. Use the damn skill. It's a good skill, I promise you. Another thing about it is that rapid regen is what I like to call a kite heal. You can activate rapid regen and then kite and not have to worry about wasting extra resources or have to rely on other people to be hitting you or be in combat to affect you. Living Dark is a super strong heal, arguably a better heal than rapid regen, but it does require you to be getting absolutely ass blasted for it to heal you. So you don't want to use that. If you're going to reposition, don't use Living Dark, use rapid regen, because that's going to get you heals at all times. If you are being chased by a lot of people though, popping a quick Living Dark to slow them all down and then rapid regen and then sprinting away can be a safe play as well. Only use your Honor the Dead when you are at very low health. So let me show you by almost killing myself. You do not want to start spamming Honor the Dead. That is a horrible, horrible, horrible habit to get into on Magplar, because you will never have magicka and you will think this class has bad sustain. We're at low health now, that's when we Honor the Dead, because Honor the Dead heals you extra based on the severity of your wounds. So that's important to remember. The longer you wait to heal yourself with Honor the Dead, the more you're going to get out of it. So that's why I try to prioritize my rapid regen over everything else, because it's my cheapest heal, it's one of my most potent heals, and it doesn't blast my magicka like this does. This also will give you some magicka return if you use it at low health. So under no circumstances do you ever use this above 75% health. Ever. But even then, I'd try to wait as long as I possibly can before I use Honor the Dead. That might kill you guys some as you're learning how to play the class. It might not. It's a feel thing. You feel it in your jellies. Just get used to it. And that is it. I think that's basically everything I need to say, that I have to say about how to play the build the way I do. And yeah, that's it, guys. I'm sorry I've been talking so much. I'm just kind of getting in the zone here. That was the video. That was the build. I hope you guys liked the build. If you like the build, if you're going to try the build, let me know. Obviously, it wasn't the most super unique and interesting build, because I was just trying to show you guys what I think the best way to play the class is. If you disagree with me and you don't think it's the best way to play the class, call me an idiot down in the comments. You know, do you? Boo. I'm not going to be mad. And yeah, good luck if you play Magplar. I hope you do, because it's a fun class. I love it very much. If you want to see me play it live, you can go do so over at twitch.tv/KuroYukiESO. Again, like I've said, join my Discord. We would love to have you. Also, if you like the build and you want to see more and you are happy that I do this and you're feeling thankful and generous, I have a Patreon where you can support me and my content by donating money to a poor little man like me. That's really up to you. You get a couple tiny benefits. It's not important. But the most important thing is that you have a great freaking day today, okay? Thank you so much for stopping in on this video. I love you. Have a great night. Kuro out. Mwah.